or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them. Whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury, San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. Eleven minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Wednesday morning, the 18th day of August, 2021. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air, of course, here in San Juan County. 103.3 FM if you're listening up in Durango, Colorado this morning, and of course anywhere else on the planet. You'll be listening to KSJE.com. Welcome also to our viewers who are watching this visual radio program. The video is streaming live this morning out to the KSJE Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our Twitter account. So we invite you to connect with us on those social media sites as well. Coming up this morning, we are continuing to talk about education with my visits with all local superintendents as we get started in the new school year. This morning, it is the Central Consolidated School District in the spotlight. Superintendent Dr. Benavidez will be here, and we'll be talking with him in just a moment. So stay tuned for that. Later on, of course, some more good words of advice from the Encouragement Lab. Dr. Mike Hadabal will be stopping by from the Encouragement Lab. Next hour, Mick Hess takes us roving with the arts. It's our classical music program, and Mick is playing music from Saint-Cyr. That's coming up today at 9:06, a special 90-minute version of Roving with the Arts, which then will take us to 10:30. And right on Four Corners, it's our local and regional author program with Tracy Hales-Vass. Tracy is talking with this person on the screen right now. That's author Kat Wilder about her latest book, which is called Desert Chrome: Water, a Woman, and Wild Horses in the West. We'll be talking about that book coming up today at 10:30 on Right on Four Corners here on KSJE. Don't forget, you could also connect with us on our Instagram page as well. Outside our studios this morning here at San Juan College, partly cloudy skies. The current temperature is 64 degrees. We're expecting a day of increasing clouds today with a good chance of a scattered shower or thunderstorm popping up this afternoon. And along with that could be some gusty winds. Cooler today with a high of 80 degrees in Farmington, 59 with a chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms overnight tonight. 79 and a chance of rain again on Thursday before things tend to dry out, and maybe a little sunnier on Friday with a high of 78. Mid-80s on Saturday with sunshine, 85 with another chance of rain on Sunday, and overnight lows getting cooler in the mid to lower 50s. I'm going to turn to my guest who is here with me this morning. Welcome back to the KSJE microphones, the Superintendent of Schools with the Central Consolidated School District. Daniel Benavidez is here. Mr. Benavidez, welcome back to KSJE.
Good morning, Scott. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Good to have you here.
Good to be back.
I hope you had a good summer, although maybe a brief summer, because I know you were probably working a lot of the summer.
Yeah, it was.
And your team.
It was one of the busier summers I've ever had. We had a lot of meetings that we went to face to face, and it was good. Got a little bit of time, but not much. So.
Okay, well, that's and now it's back to the grindstone.
Back to the grindstone
for you and your staff and your teachers and your students.
Yep, students started yesterday, and most staff has been here a couple weeks ago, and then all 12-month boys have been here year-round. So.
Right, got you. And so I'm thinking back to our last conversation in May, and we were very positive and hopeful, and I think all of us were, obviously, with maybe the look that maybe July 1st, the color codes went away in New Mexico,
right,
and things opening back up, and we were going to have a much better fall. And while things are certainly different this fall than last fall, we still have COVID around because of the Delta variant,
right,
and the state just issued some new guidelines yesterday, which I think you guys were ahead of the curve on.
Right.
And so, but give me some idea of just how things are going now that school has started in Central Schools.
Well, I think that we're really fortunate that kids are going to be in person. I think that's been a positive out of Public Education Department, that they've made it very clear that the expectation is students in class.
And parents, I think, want that too. At least that's what I keep hearing about.
Parents, they're very concerned about their kids, and I think they want their kids in class. I think they hopefully, I said before that they understand how teachers go through this on a daily basis, and they had to deal with it because, when they were remote or whatever. But I think generally speaking, parents want their kids back in school. I think teachers want their kids back. We're really excited. But there are some concerns with that Delta variant. I think that it's different than it was a year ago, because last year at this time we were remote. So we'll take the positive.
Right. Well, and you're right. We had COVID concerns last year. We had no vaccine last year, and so things have changed, and I think mostly for the better.
I believe so.
And again, I think there's a concerted effort on the part of the public education department and local school districts to try to get kids and keep kids face to face.
Yeah, I just encourage people to recognize that we want to keep kids in school. I think the easiest way, without it being a political thing, is simply wear the mask while you're indoors, and then we go from there. Going around the schools at the end of last year and seeing kids now, I think kids are the ones that are more adaptable to things. But we have to make it a concerted effort to make sure kids stay in school, and that's ultimately what we want. And so far, that's the case.
Right.
So,
looking at the data from last year, and it was a mostly remote year. I think everyone tends to agree that the kids didn't do as well remote learning as they do when they're sitting in that classroom.
Yeah, I think there was some kids that really enjoyed being at home and could adapt to that environment.
Certainly.
But most kids in general needed that interaction with their classmates. They needed that social, emotional type of interaction with their classmates. And then again, so far what we've seen in the classroom is that, or what we've looked at data-wise, is that kids need to be in school. That's the best way. It's the best interaction. You get to read people. Teachers get to read their kids, see their body language, and make adjustments. And I think that's important. It's hard to see somebody online if they're having a hard time, because you just see this.
Right.
So.
Very true. Well, now you see this.
Right.
But still, better than nothing.
That's better than I'll take it.
Yes, sir.
We need kids in school.
Right. And in your district, it's a bit of a challenge, too, just because of the rural nature of the Central Consolidated School District, and we can't forget that.
Right.
You have some unique, I think, issues and challenges that maybe other school districts, even in San Juan County, don't have.
Right. We have to balance. We keep saying that we have to balance everything. We have to worry about, because we are a state school, we have to worry about, state regulations and statutes and all that kind of stuff. But we also have to consider Navajo Nation. We have to consider federal law. So in our district, we have that balancing act that we have to make sure that we're trying to meet everybody, and it's hard. It's hard for people to understand that we have a balancing act, and we try to do the best that we can, and the board has been very supportive of that. So it's again, the bottom line is we want to make sure kids are in school, and we'll do whatever we can to make sure that those kids get educated face to face.
Right. And so we mentioned the new guidelines from the state that came out just yesterday about wearing masks indoors. That's the newest thing. And so I wanted to ask you a bit about your policies with the district. And as I mentioned, you folks were ahead of the curve. You had already kind of even given that decision making to your principals. Right. And what did they come back with?
They were, we have great staff, principals, called them in as soon as the first time when the guidance came out from Public Education Department, pulled in the secondary, because all elementary schools in the state of Mexico had to wear masks. So that wasn't an issue. It was an issue from secondary on. So we called in all the principals, asked them, what do you guys want to do? This is going to be your decision. It's your site. You guys know your community. And they were champions. They were just really enthusiastic, and they gave the answer that it's easier to make to have everybody wear a mask, because they didn't want to police. It was just easier. Whether they didn't want to have to worry about checking vaccination cards and all that kind of stuff. They were worried about educating kids, and that was really fantastic of them to come up with that. So we're on the same page. It made it easy. We could focus on other things, and we had other districts asking us about how we came up with it, and just told them that it was the principals. And so very proud of our principals, secondary principals, for coming up with that decision.
Right. So that is the rule. Of course, it's the rule now throughout the state.
Right.
But at central schools, it's wear a mask.
It's kind of funny that came to be, but it made it easy for us when it happened yesterday, because now we only have to focus on one aspect, and that's the vaccination for adults. If they're not vaccinated, which is fine, that's their choice, they just have to get tested once a week. And so there's some ironing out on that. We have to get some clarification with PD on that. But if they're vaccinated, they don't have to get tested. And that's really the only change that we have to adjust to right now. Everything else is pretty much the same. So.
And from what you're hearing from the state, if you are hearing anything from the state, does it seem like they really want to keep kids face to face this school year if they can? Obviously, there may be outbreaks and things like that. You may have to quarantine a cohort or something like that. But is that kind of what they're hoping will happen?
Yeah, that's the indication that I've talked to a couple of my colleagues around the state, down south, north, east. And that's the indication that we're getting. There hasn't been any kind of official word or rumor or anything like that. But if you look at the past year and you use that data on how they reacted and how they went about their business, I think the one thing is very clear, that they want kids in school, and they really don't want to have to mandate type of. They want to keep the economy open. I mean, I think that's the sense that I get for what it's worth, my opinion, which is not much, but I think that they're gonna try to make sure that things stay open. If they use a mask, that we don't have to shut things down. I think the economy is a bigger issue.
Well,
frankly.
I think we saw what happened when things were shut down, and now with the option of vaccines, I think that's another tool to control these outbreaks.
Right.
Is what we're hearing.
And so I think that my hope is that they give us some of that control back to the local school boards. That's my hope. But I'm in the job of trying to make sure kids are educated. It's not political for me, left or right. I just want to make sure kids are educated. That's what my job is to do. And so we will do whatever we can to keep kids in school. And so that's our hope.
Are you seeing some enrollment numbers that show some kids coming back that maybe you didn't see last year on your rosters?
Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. I have some preliminary numbers that we've seen. It's only day 3,
right?
But our ridership is up over last year, and we're noticing that some kids that didn't have the option or have the capacity to be online are coming back, and so we're keeping our fingers crossed that those kids are going to come back, and our numbers are a little bit better than they were last year. So far that's the case, but you never know.
Right, I understand. I'll ask you again probably as the semester goes on, and maybe things kind of settle down, because I know day 3, it's a little of a premature question probably, but so far so good.
So far so good.
So that's good to know. I know a lot of superintendents and a lot of educators are concerned about lost learning and from last year, and so are your teachers working on that at the beginning of this school year? Is that something that you've asked them to look at?
Yeah, we had some. What we try to do is make sure that we changed the calendar a little bit this year. We put it to a vote, and it was amazing when you got the feedback of how we wanted to go about making up that lost learning. We have several options, and so when we put it to a vote, community, we tried our best to keep a traditional 5-day calendar. But what we did is we went to a 4-day school week, but we use those Fridays to make up the loss of learning. So it mirrors a 5-day traditional calendar. So we're still able to have a normal start date, which was 2 days ago, which was August, and then still get out at the end of May, maybe the first week of June. And then we had some other programs, and there was a little bit of rub, people trying to understand why we had to make this loss of learning. But I think the committee that was on the calendar committee, teachers, union, administration, did a really good job of explaining and trying to get it out there that we want to keep that traditional type of calendar without having to have a year-round school, because that was some of the options that we could have started in like second week of July and end in late June, and that's not what the community wanted. They wanted as best as we could to try to mirror a traditional school year, and that's what we came up with. So that's what we're doing.
Gotcha. And of course, you're just getting underway, so too early to tell kind of how that's going.
Right.
But your hope is that it will help kids who maybe need to catch up get caught up.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I encourage parents to take advantage of any type of tutoring that we have or any type of extra learning that we have. I think, again, if we stay in face-to-face, we'll be able to catch up. I really, I have faith in our student population. Kids are resilient. We don't give them enough credit, and I've mentioned that before here, that we don't give kids enough credit, or students. They're resilient, and if you give them the opportunity to excel, I think they're going to excel, and I think they'll make up for it, and hopefully we won't have to worry about it a year from now. But that's always in the back of our mind, so we're making sure that we have those things in place to make sure we make up for it. So
right.
We'll see.
Gotcha. Very good. My guest this morning, Daniel Benavidez, is here. He is the superintendent of schools with the Central Consolidated School District. They started school 3 days ago on Monday.
Yeah.
So and off they go for the 2021-22 school year. Let me ask you about money and budgets and things along that line. It's a little early to talk about that as well, but obviously, there's been a lot of money coming in for COVID and education and things along that line. Has that been useful for the school district and being able to maybe retrofit some things and improve some things at central schools?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. It's been helpful. There's some requirements that go along with that money, and so we're looking at those things. We're trying to use that money to make up for some of the loss of spending in the past, one-time purchases. I don't believe in making in having something that we're going to have a recurring obligation to. So
hard to hire staff, I guess, if you want to keep them back year after year with one-time funds, then you got to find it somewhere else.
Right, and on those limited positions, because we've kept them very minimal, I think we've hired some long-term subs. That way, we can make sure that if once that money's done, they understand that there's not going to be a job there. We have a lot of types of purchases that we have to make, and one of the purchases that we're going to be making is every classroom will have an interactive panel. I think there's one thing that COVID has taught us is that we need our teachers to be able to be in the classroom and have that technology. So we are going to be purchasing for every classroom interactive panels where they can write on it with their finger or connect with a iOS operating system or a Droid or Microsoft operating system, and then have the internet there, and then have the speaker and the camera available so they can use it in case we have to go, which I'm not really wild if we have to go remote, but we'll have that technology, and that's it's going to cost a little bit of money, but we're going to use some of that money for that.
Gotcha.
And and then try to improve other things around the district. Those one-time occurring costs.
Right, and I'm sure things like cleaning budgets have gone up, custodial budgets have gone up, things like that. I know there was some requirements for air filters and HVAC and things like that to make sure all that was up to snuff. Is that some of the things you've had to deal with?
We replaced a system at one of our schools where it's a brand new HVAC system where they have an ultraviolet. The air goes through that ultraviolet, so it gets filtered that way. We've bought some. It's amazing how.
I bet you've learned a lot about HVAC in the last 18 months.
And I didn't realize that certain products do a better job of cleaning, and so those are little things that, positive wise, you learn. It's always good to learn something new, but we're just making sure that people are safe, trying to make sure that we can provide those services for our students and staff. So
exactly. I wanted to ask you a bit about transportation.
Sure.
And now that kids are coming back to school, are there any different rules on buses these days? I mean, how does that work if you've got a bus full of kids?
Well, the requirement, the way I read it yesterday, is that inside any enclosed, whether it's a bus or inside, you're going to have to wear masks. So that's not going to change for us. We've pretty much the bus drivers want to feel safe. Nationwide, I found out a couple of days ago that there's a bus driver shortage, and right now we're doing okay. We're still short bus drivers. Okay. But when I talk to colleagues around the state, that's an issue because of some kids don't want to wear the masks and the enforcement and that kind of stuff. And I don't blame the bus drivers for not wanting to drive if they're not going to feel safe. So we're going to try our best there to make sure that we give them a safe environment to drive. Ultimately, they're with kids in some ways just as much interaction-wise as teachers.
That's true.
So,
Right.
we need to support them as best we can.
Got you. And staffing it for teachers and others, are you looking good? Are you still
We're
some
looking,
openings?
surprisingly, relatively speaking, we still have openings, but we're not hurting as much as other districts.
Okay.
We've done some looking at numbers and trying to make sure that if there's an opportunity to combine a class without overloading that teacher, if there's a class of maybe 10 or 11, maybe we divvy it up so we can have them, each class increase it to 2, so that instead of having 17 or 18, maybe they're up to 20. And we don't want to go over that kind of threshold. There's limits at the elementary level. High school, they have some limits. But we want to make sure that we're using our money and our resources in the right way. And so we've done that through attrition, retirement, looked at our numbers, and we're not as bad as I was first thinking that it might be. So
Good. Well, that's positive.
It is
and
positive,
good
and-
news. And I wanted to ask you too, if there's a family that really that their child did really well virtually, is there an option for
Absolutely.
students to stay in a virtual educational setting?
Good question, Scott. What we've done is we're still trying to fine tune that this week.
Okay.
And we should have something tomorrow or Friday. But we do have options for virtual. It is on a case-by-case basis, so we give that parent choice, and they just need to see their site principal for that option.
Got you. And that would be for all grades?
For all grades, yes.
So-
we had thought about coming up with maybe some teachers or a pool or doing an MOU with another district, but it just got more complicated and a little bit more legal.
Sure.
There's some
Darn those lawyers. They're involved in everything.
Yeah, they're in everything.
Everything.
And what we've tried to do is make sure that we give that option to students. But again, the expectation from PD and us is to have kids in school. But we recognize that there's some parents that may want that virtual option. So all they have to do is see their site administrator, site principal, and we'll go from there.
Gotcha. What are some of your long-term goals for this school year as we get started? Do you have some things that you'd like to see happen between now and May? And here we go. We'll see how wrong we are by the end of the school year when
I
we
think
talk
our
again.
main goal is to make sure kids are in school.
Okay.
If we can do that this year, that'll make me very happy. That'll be a win for students. We have some other internal goals that we want to make sure that we try to get those kids that are behind up to where they need to be grade level wise. We have some. We're implementing a dual language program at 2 of our elementaries, a 90-10 model. All those parents that are listening that want to have their kids in a Dene language program, starting at kindergarten and first grade, please go see your site administrator. We'll work on that. We're also looking at a dual language program in the Kirtland area in Spanish if parents are interested. But those are some of the goals that we have right off the bat to move things forward with some of the things that we want to implement last year, but we couldn't because of COVID.
Right.
But right off the bat, those are the things. And
that dual language program,
Yeah.
pardon me for interrupting,
Yeah,
but just
no
for
worries.
folks who maybe aren't familiar
Right.
with what that entails, tell us what that would mean. So you've got it for both Navajo language and Spanish,
right.
is what you're talking
So
about.
dual language program, it's an immersion program, and there's 2 models. There's the 90-10 model, which is 90% in that other language than English. So it'd be Dene in the 2 elementaries case, or Spanish or another language. But in our case, it would be Dene. And then the other one, if we can get enough people, it would be Spanish. Again, we want parents to inquire about it, but
Right.
and there's the 50-50 model where you're teaching half the day in English and half the day in that other language, Dene or Spanish. And the reason we chose the 90-10 model is that kids at that grade level or that early development level pick up a language faster. And the 90-10 model has been very successful in the 2 other districts that I've been. And my kids are part of a dual language program. They're biliterate, and I think cognitively, it's just a win-win for people. And it's not just limited to people that let's say that are Navajo or Spanish speakers. We encourage anybody that's interested in learning a second language to enroll their kids at that school. We'll figure a way to get them to those sites, because if it goes the way we want it to, it will expand, and it'll benefit them in the long run down the road. And everybody knows one language is great, two languages is even better, and so on and so forth. So
very true. And you're right, I think, about the younger a person is, the easier it seems for them to pick up another language or several other languages perhaps. So that's the time to do it.
Yep.
And so it sounds to me like you need maybe a number of people to make it to make the numbers work, right? To go forward with it, like the Spanish program, you need to have enough folks signed up.
We would love to have. If we don't get enough numbers, then we'll continue to have the other model, which is the 2-hour program, the Heritage program.
I see.
That way, we enhance the language that's at home, but I think that we've become a global kind of community, as we've seen. We have access to different environments out there, and I just think that if people, it's free. It's great. I mean, you look at, I've talked to colleagues around the United States who send their kids to private school, which I'm not a big fan of, just my personal opinion, but they're paying for educating their kids, and they're paying to learn another language. And we have an opportunity here in our district to learn another language for free.
Right.
So I would encourage parents to take advantage of that. And if they're interested at all or just want to know more about it, please see the site principal. And if they don't have an answer, we will get them an answer.
Okay. Very good. Good to know. With kids coming back face to face, I imagine that is also the case maybe on the athletic fields and courts. Sports are back to most extent. Is that true?
Yes, really excited. I know our kids are really excited about being on the football field or in the gym playing volleyball or running cross country. Your
students aren't competitive, are they?
They're not competitive
not
at all.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, tongue in cheek there, folks.
Yes.
But we're really excited. They were short. We had a shortened season last year at the very end. We were lucky that we even had them.
That's right.
And
you're playing football in June, right?
Right, and playing baseball all the way to the end, and it was just different.
Yeah.
And the positive is that we're looking at a full season in all sports, and I'll be able to go to those events. I mean, it was really short, so I couldn't go to a lot of events because they were like right after another, but they're spread out and it's a normal season, and we'll be able to go out there. And I'm encouraging all our staff to go see our kids, but they need that support. Right.
Very true. And that's all part of the educational life, isn't it? When kids are going to school to do these extracurricular things, and I don't want to discount band and choir, which maybe have their own concerns and procedures and safety things as well, but all those things I think need the support of the community.
I agree. I think that we need to focus on academics. We do. However, a lot of kids go there for other things other than the academics, and I think that we can support them if we can support them, whether it's band or choir or ROTC or football, baseball, whatever it is that extracurricular that they want to do, we're going to support them. I think that's important. I think that's a skill that, and socially, that when they get out in the real world, they've had those interactions with a number of people to make them be more attractive for the jobs.
Sure.
And so that interaction is important. So
right.
Absolutely.
And isn't there a correlation between maybe some of these extracurricular things and academics? I mean, whether it's keep your GPA up so you stay on the team,
That's
or or just have a place to maybe release some of that energy after studying all day.
I think the majority of kids in our public school system go to school for something else other than academics. I think that we're very proud of academics. We want to be able to do that, but kids need other support. I mean, I think adults have their job, but they don't live for their jobs. I think that they work so they can so they can enjoy life as well, and I think that correlates to kids too. I think that they look at school as a way to expand their horizons, and it's really important for them to get out. So I encourage all our kids to, if they've never been a part of a club or joined athletics, I encourage them them to, why not try it? I mean, it doesn't hurt, and so it's good for their social, emotional well-being. But it's also important for them to get out there. They've been boxed up because of COVID, and I think they just need to get out and enjoy themselves.
There you go, and safely.
And safely. That's key. Safe.
And that sounds like that's what's happening. So
yes. Very
good. Well, Mr. Benavidez, always great to have you here. Thank you for coming in.
Likewise.
You've committed to coming in every month during the school year, which I appreciate. So we will see you again in September.
Nice seeing you, and likewise, be safe and keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you then. That's Daniel Benavidez. He is the superintendent of schools with the Central Consolidated School District. My guest this morning on KSJE. The time right now is 8:40 a.m.
Using the power of minor internet celebrity to promote vaccines. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace Tech. I'm Megan McCarty-Carino in from Hollywood.
Marketplace Tech is supported by Angie. Angie's List is now Angie, connecting homeowners with pros for projects. Homeowners can see upfront pricing on hundreds of projects and instantly book at Angie.com. And by Smash Boom Best. Every episode of this family-friendly debate podcast pits two awesome things against each other and lets kids decide the winner. Listen wherever you get podcasts.
The Biden administration is reportedly considering recommending a booster shot of the COVID vaccine, but almost a third of Americans over 12 haven't gotten their first dose yet. Some local health departments are pioneering a new way to reach the holdouts through micro-influencers. These aren't the big stars of social media with millions of